Green construction is one of the world's fastest growing trends that the history of architectural construction has ever seen. Today I want to teach those of you who may not know what green construction is. We'll be covering the three main persons in the construction phase: the owner, the architect, and the construction manager, and the pros and cons to green construction to each of those people. Now, to explain most of these topics, I'm going to be using the Residence Antilia of Mumbai, India as an example. We're going to start out with the owner. Now, the Residence Antilia was a 10-story building built for literally a king. It's a skyscraper building, a steel frame building that's to be erected in 2007. The building has one of the most monumental green designs to it, involving a multi-layer garden that raises from the basement to the ceiling, and also has pools, waterworks, etc. like this, and is very energy efficient. Now, the first thing the owner should do is conduct a life cycle assessment, and this is, among other things, the forecast to the money saved in the future. So it's the cost that you would have to pay extra to build this building green to the money saved in the future. Now, you can also look at that like the money paid now to the owner's appreciation, which is more applicable in this situation. You can also look at it like the money up front in a commercial building to your employees or your residents or your customers in that building and their mood. There's many studies showing that more light or green views can increase people's overall mood. Now, there's also cases where green building is required. Everybody's probably familiar with EPA. That's North America's Environmental Protection Agency, and that's going to put regulations on most of your HVAC controls, as well as it's going to put controls on your energy requirements, watershed, other things during construction. Now, also, there's more extreme examples, such as in Tianjin, China, which the city is literally a wasteland because of the industry that was in it in the 1970s and 80s. And now it has been bought from actually a merger between an outside company and a Chinese company, and they're remodeling the city to make it the world's most eco-friendly city. And the codes in the city and the overall plan is to not only make the buildings green themselves, but where they are and how people interact green too. So it's going to cut down on transportation, watershed, water recycling, and waste shed. So after you consider the owner, we're going to consider the architect. An architect does not necessarily make more money to design a green building, which is unfortunate, except for most green projects run about 5 to 20% more than a standard building. So they do make a little bit more money, but they have to do extra work that's not ultimately equal to just doing another job. However, being a LEED certified architect does make you grow your business, what's on the table. Willem Perkins was architect for this Indian residence project, and it was because they had a very good portfolio. Now, I want to explain to you what LEED is. That's the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. That is America's, and also, in this case, India's. They have their own version of the regulations put on green buildings. It's the most common. It's run off a point system. So, for example, there's points for having bicycle park racks and compact car parking spots and parking lots. Now, each of those would get you 1 point. Now, you add up these points over your parking, your watershed, your electricity, your energy saving, your waste savings, and you get an accumulated sum. Now, this accumulated sum is going to put you in one of these brackets. There's accredited, silver, gold, and platinum. Now, these four ranks basically say how efficient your building is. So again, in the Indian example here, I believe the building scored a silver, which doesn't put it quite to the top, platinum being very rare. There are only a handful of platinum buildings in Texas, actually. Gold being very prestigious, silver being very energy wise, and accredited having both construction and design features to make the building more friendly. Now we're going to consider the construction manager. The construction manager kind of gets the short end of the stick in that they again don't get paid as much. They have a 2% premium opposed to the architect 6%, which the contract is going to be a little bit bigger, which is good for them, but they have to deal with a lot more headache. And I'm going to explain this in an example. For the residents, say you had a certain installation. Now, the LEED puts requirements on the distance that you can receive your materials for that project. So when you have a fabricator make you something, and make you something that is rare, you really cut down on your competition. And this leads to price gouging. And when you don't have really good relations with a fabricator or a subcontractor that is dealing with one of these things that have to go into your building, you can run the risk of losing a job. However, just like an architect, if you are familiar with building LEED jobs, you can be very good at it. And actually, there's many companies that have their niche in just building green buildings. Now to conclude, I want to restate our three people here: our owner, our architect, and our construction manager, and the pros and cons. The owner is going to pay more money up front, but obviously save it in the future, and also maybe have more business or more residents. The architect does not necessarily make more money, but can also expand their business by having LEED experience. And the construction manager is very similar, except they accrue more of a headache than the architect. Now, I want you to consider this and keep in mind that the owner's word always goes in construction. So this is why from 2005 to 2010, the LEED and green construction industry rose from $10 billion annually to 60. Now this is a time in a severe recession. So you got to think that while the trend in construction overall is going down, green construction is going up, and it's actually going up exponentially. In the last 2 years, it's going to raise up just over $90 billion. Now, what is important and what I want you to focus on is that this is a trend. It's not a fad. It's been here for 15 years and it's growing exponentially. It's eventually going to take over, and most buildings, 90%, the majority of buildings are going to be green. They're going to be LEED certified. They're going to have some kind of energy efficiency to them. And I want to take this and give it to you, and I want you to use it in whatever role of construction you will be in the future. Thank you for your time.